Now, many Australian businesses and consumers are right now hurting as an industrial dispute causing lengthy delivery delays enters its fourth month.
We're joined now by industry spokesperson Scott Carson in studio and live in Perth, freight forwarder Brian Hack. Scott, first to you represent many Australian traders. Can you just tell us where this all began?
Sophie, yes. Well, look, where we're at the moment, we've got DP World, which is one of Australia's top two-sized stevedore terminals in Australia. So they handle around about 40-45% in the major terminals in Australia of the throughput of containers, import and export. So this is anywhere from raw materials, finished goods, those sort of things. So what happened was they started with their logger claims, the MUA, which represents the stevedore workers, back in September. They then had approved what's called protective industrial action that's occurred from October right through to date. So this is legally able to be done. It's endorsed by the Fair Work Commission. But what that does, it creates stoppages under this PIA, and it creates damages in terms of costs and services and delays in DP World servicing those import-export containers. So as an example, it's around an average of about $18 million a day in terms of the impost to Australia's international trade. And at one stage in December, close to 43,000 containers were held. So that's in terms of disruption. So we now head through the Christmas New Year break, and we're now into the point there's another further term of protective industrial action, which has basically been scheduled, and that's going to roll out to the 15th of January unless these two parties get together. So these parties have been trying to negotiate really since September, 3-year enterprise agreement. And if we go back to the last one was negotiated, done and dusted in 6 weeks back in 2021.
All right, so how are these delays affecting so many Australian businesses right now, and why aren't people paying closer attention to this?
Look, it's a good question because I think it's only now, and appreciate the opportunity to explain to your viewers how this is happening, but it's pretty much a self-contained industry. So unless you're working in it or know of people working in it, you don't sort of understand or see these problems. So what we've got a situation where these stevedore terminals, under the wisdom of previous governments, state and federal of both persuasion, have allowed privatisation to occur. So we've got, in each one of these capital city ports, they're privatised, apart with the exception of Fremantle in WA. So there's layers of separate ownership that has become very difficult at a state and federal level to control situations. So as well as this industrial issue that we've got, which needs to be sorted out next week, we've also got uncontrolled costs and levies and surcharges that these terminals force onto the Australian economy. You probably wouldn't believe it, but they are able to charge what they want, just basically on some minimum notice periods of time, on charges on the Australian economy, on forced conditions. So trucks need to go in and out of these interfaces with the port. As an example, Patrick Terminals increased their landside charges by 28% on average.
Okay, but for a customer, what does this mean to them? Does it mean their deliveries are being held, they're being delayed?
Yeah, bring it down to that level. Yeah. So what's happening, they are being delayed. Yeah. So you've got delays of up to 5 hours reported as late as Friday in terms of yesterday. So that is an impact in terms of delay. So it's extra costs for transport. Yep. It's creating backlogs and extra costs in the large depots that service these movements. This is going to impact the consumer. So
I can imagine it jacks up prices as well. I just want to get to Brian. As a business owner working in the freight industry, you're at the forefront of this issue. How tough is the situation for you?
Yeah, it's actually been really tough for businesses like ours in the industry. But it's not just us. It's, like Scott said, it's many others in various sectors too. So the impacts are quite wide-ranging. But with the industrial action going on since October, and looks like it could be continuing for months, and it's just causing delays for overall smooth flow of goods out of the port.
How much?
And like Scott said, it's just costing extra time, extra labour to every shipment, and obviously that costs money. And it just makes meeting deadlines for our clients like really, really challenging. And unfortunately, we seem to be copping the blame for action that's outside of our control. And and it's also likely doing some serious reputational damage to Australia on the global port scales. Like, already we're ranked in the bottom 20% of the global port rankings, so I'm sure this isn't helping us at all.
Yeah, well, it needs a resolution, but it may
indeed
be longer than necessary. All right, Brian, Scott, thank you so much.